I had a lovely day and nothing really progressed or happened. Still looking for my appliances, and my ear is slowly but surely becoming less and less plugged. And I enjoyed my Chinese takeout. So I don't know, I just had kind of a low key day because I've been really trying to think about how to approach this next batch of not very pleasant content. And what I want to say up front is that the case that I want to discuss tonight, I'm not sure if I'm going to stretch it out into another segment or episode because I'm not sure. I really considered doing not face to face because I know that I'm going to start ranting. I'm going to try to limit that. It's a very horrible case, and I remember being 21, 22 when this happened. Um, and it's upsetting because at that time, I remember looking at the headlines of the person that they arrested from this case, and I kept thinking, no, that can't be a criminal. That person it seems so sincere, and basically, I have been right all along. So, what I want to say first and foremost is that this is very upsetting to me personally because of a couple of things. Number one, the criminal that was finally identified in 2015 looks so much like somebody from my remote past. Not me personally, but maybe someone my family and I might have associated with on a business basis. I don't know. He looks so familiar, and I can't, until today, I didn't see his face. So I'm really miffed about that. And another thing is that it has overtures about the very strong hold that my father's business partner, my late father's business partner, had on me while my father was alive and after he passed away. And so it's icky. It's that kind of icky feeling. I'm not saying it's the same situation, but so listen on. And one more thing. Before I actually start, I'm not going to get into the details of what all the things that this poor little girl had to endure after she went missing. I don't know how long she was alive for after she went missing. Um, but if you do want to know more about her, um, you can research her. I will link some websites below, some articles, and I will be flashing images of the people involved in the case. And so, you know, I don't want to rant and rave. Um, it's so typical of everywhere, not just here. Um, it did occur in my city, so just outside of my city, north of the city. And so let's start because enough of this hemming and hawing. I want to get right into it, and I'm not sure if we'll finish, but I really sense that I'm going to have a hard time sleeping if I get upset. So I may continue it tomorrow. I'll sign off and we'll continue tomorrow. So let's see how this goes, shall we? Anyway, Christine Marion Jessup, um, a 9-year-old Canadian girl from Queensville, Ontario, went missing on October 3rd, 1984, presumably after school, if it was a school day, after purchasing bubble gum at a convenience store, at a local convenience store near her home in York Region, 50 kilometers north of Toronto. And this is where a lot of criminal activity and trafficking does occur. However, in this particular case, yes, she was trafficked, but I don't think she was alive long enough to be trafficked in a classical sense. She was abducted, attacked, and her life ended in October of 1984. There was no mention of the exact day. Her body was found 50 kilometers, about 30 miles away from her home, on, of all days, New Year's Eve of that year, 1984. And so Christine Jessop's body was found in a field in Sunderland, Ontario, approximately a little more than 30 miles, 56 kilometers from her home on December the 31st, 1984. Jessop's mother and older brother, Kenny, that day, and guys, take note of the details and try to see the similarities between the details of this case and the one that I told you about yesterday. They're a little similar. If you just hang on and listen, I'll tell you why. Her older brother, Kenny, and her mother had traveled to a detention center where her father, Bob Jessop, was in custody. And I haven't researched that. If I do find out, I will let you know tomorrow. But I haven't researched it because the more that I dug into this story, all these details kept spilling out, and I became, you know, I became enraged. So what happened was, and I don't understand this logic, but I think the family was in a bad, they were panicked about something. And I don't think there was a lot of clear thinking going on. Certainly, Christine would have been much safer in a locked car with a window down and lots of candy to munch on than being left on the roads, you know. However, I'm not going to judge. I know that what happened to this family is devastating. And it was an error of judgment, maybe. Um, these days, I mean, I know that when I was small, I was walking home from school every day buying candy. Nothing ever happened to me. So I can't judge. You know what I mean? Of course, I lived in a busy, bustling business center in the center of the city. So it was quite a different situation. And it was a decade earlier, no, 2 decades earlier. So I can't compare. Now, her mother thought that at 9 years old, Christine was much too young to visit. And so they left Christine behind, alone, 60 kilometers, 37 miles north of Toronto. And wow, what a weird situation. So Christine must have been not in a good state. She knew that her father was not there, and she knew that her father was in some sort of predicament. Um, I know about as much as she did at the time, and so she must have been preoccupied, and so that afternoon, um, Jessop was declared missing on the 3rd of October, 1984. I believe it was in the evening. 2 months later, um, on the 31st of December, her remains were found in a farmer's field in Sunderland Brock Township, 55 kilometers or 34 miles east of her home. So different articles are citing different distances. Let's just say it was around 30 miles away from her home, east, on the east, in the east direction. So um, she had died. I'm not going to say how or why. Um, Now, investigators later discovered certain stains on her clothing, and so police later learned that a particular man who had been familiar with the area um, had been visiting a friend nearby and therefore knew it pretty well. So, now let's get to the friends of the Jessup family. And this would be a couple and their sons, Calvin and Heather Hooper. And now Heather had two sons from another marriage, and Calvin was so sweet enough to adopt them. I guess he was a good father to them. I'm sure he was, um, because because of the shock. I'm sure he was. So hold on, because my battery power is dying. Hold on. So what happened was that Calvin and Heather got married in sometime after 1977. And even though Heather had two other sons from a previous marriage, they went on to have two more. And so um, at that time, the Hoovers were not living in Queensville. They were living in Scarborough. So that is the east part of this city. And so they were both working at Eastern Independent Telecom, where they met Christine's father, Bob. So Bob, Heather, and Calvin all worked together. Now, I didn't make that face because I don't think people should be allowed to work together. I just, don't like the direction that this story took. Um, it's horrific, guys. It's horrific. And I want to keep my calm and cool and collectedness about me, because if I don't, I'm going to have to erase the whole footage and start all over again. So, Bob, okay, Heather was a dispatcher, Calvin was a cable installer, and Bob was he was sort of like the leader or the manager of the installers, according to what Heather told the police. And so the Hoovers and the Jessops began to spend time together, commuting to see each other. And Heather said that she and Bob's wife, Janet, really became close, that Janet would be Christine Jessop's mother. And so Heather's sons, her older sons, who were 10 and 7 years old at the time, played with Christine all the time. And Christine fell in love with the couple's son together, who was a toddler at the time, her third son. And so I imagine that the fourth boy had not been born yet. So you can tell the kind of closeness this is. I've had many relationships with families exactly like this. And so it makes one doubt everything around us. That's why I don't like talking about these cases. They are not very lifelike. They are surreal and, in this case, pretty horrific. So let me finish explaining. Christine had just been, a few days before she went missing, I would imagine 3 or 4 days. She had just gone missing. She had gone missing right after the family went to visit the Hoovers. I don't know if it was just Christine or the entire Jessup family. I'm not sure, because Bob would have been in trouble at that point. And so I don't know what happened. I have to look it up, guys. And so on October the 3rd, Heather got home from work. And it must have been through a phone call because in 1984, I don't think very many homes were equipped with computers or even cell phones for that matter. It must have been a phone call. And she heard that Christine had disappeared. And so now I want you to understand the friendship that had been struck. Now, between Christine and Heather. And Heather, guys, Heather loved and still loves Christine. Heather used to babysit her. And I believe that that may have been the purpose of the visit to the Hoover home days before Christine went missing. And so what happened was that Heather got home and then she got the message and she split right away from her Scarborough home and headed right up to Queensville. That's how loyal a friend she was to the Jessops. And so, guys, in the hours and days and weeks following Christine's disappearance, it would seem, of course, that Heather, for sure, and her husband, Calvin, were very cooperative with the police. However, it did seem as though, well, when I was going over the story, and this is not a news fact, that Heather was under much more scrutiny than her husband was. And so I found that weird. I'm going to dismiss it because I don't know, so I can't really make a judgment. And so Heather said that she thought that the police were doing everything that they could, and they were being very thorough. And I believe that Christine's mother also felt the same way. And so I'm wondering, now Crime Stoppers wasn't or established until 1985. And that would have been after Nicole went missing. And so what I'm saying is that maybe before Crime Stoppers, police were more humane or more thorough in how they did their investigations. However, it's very, very difficult to be thorough when you have just a few scattered police officers for thousands and thousands of cases and reports similar to this. So yes, even all these years later, if there was ever any need for reform, it is much more necessary now than it was 30 years ago. So what I'm saying is, no police department can be expected to put in all those man hours on its own, and they shouldn't ever try to claim jurisdiction over any case, because this is what happens. And even though they may mean well, they can't just, expect to do it all on their own, especially when they're not coming up with any real or significant leads. And so the police have, since then, since 2015, the police have confirmed that Calvin Hoover was never ever questioned. His DNA was never ever tested. Now, guys, okay, they were close. I can see the logic. But weren't we just saying yesterday that usually in cases like this, it's somebody very close, maybe even a family member? How many decades is it going to take for the police to understand and respect that? Christine had just been to the Hoover home a couple of days previously. And so it might have been during the time that her father became incarcerated. And so she had an absent father from then on. And So the oversight has never ever been explained or questioned or talked about. And I wonder why. That isn't the way we do things. So little did we know he was just right there. He was in plain sight. He wasn't hiding. So Heather said that she believed her husband's alibi that he had given to the police. And he had been at work the entire afternoon. And why was he able to have that alibi? Because his boss was in jail. Nobody was going to unvouch for him, I should say. You know what I'm saying? His alibi was clear. You know what I'm saying? I can see the evil line of logic that Hoover used at the time. But let's continue on with the story. So they never, she assumed that Heather probably assumed that the police did investigate the alibi that her husband gave them. And so now, in 2015, she was wondering. Now, you have to understand, between 1984 and 2015, 37 years went by, and they didn't check his alibi. It took 37 years? Guys, the thing is, it's not that he was an unknown person or, oh, okay, I'm going to be calm. So they obviously didn't check the alibi. And I'm wondering, even if there was a personal connection that he may have had with the police department. I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe because, if the police can vouch for you, that's the way it was sometimes then. It was a client patron relationships were very well and prominent and thriving, and that is how they operated. And so maybe it was something like that. So now, all those years after Christine was found lifeless, Heather kept going back to the cemetery, and guess who would go with her? Her husband, Calvin. So, however, she did say that the one thing that linked her husband to the crime was DNA. And so, because of where it was and how it got there, she realized in 2015, now in 2015, I believe that's when, okay, I've got this wrong, guys. 2020, not 2015. 2015 is when Hoover died. Calvin Hoover died in 2015. We're talking about 2020. I'm sorry. So 37 years from 2020 was 1984, and that's what we're talking about. I get the dates mixed up. I'm sorry. And so in 2020, that is what she began to speculate that that type of DNA just can't be fake. It can't. It's got to be real. It speaks without words. And so finally, guys, in in 2020, after years of having dealt with a false arrest and wrongful imprisonment, this case between 1990, was it 1996, 1992, when the gentleman, 1992, Guy Paul Moran, was exonerated, or acquitted, I should say, acquitted and he was exonerated after they found the DNA. So um, it took all those years and that struggle for the poor falsely accused to keep insisting that he was innocent, and they wouldn't listen to him when the murderer was right there under their noses and they didn't question him. Guys, mm-mm. So that is really something. This has been the biggest case of false imprisonment and wrongful conviction that has likely ever occurred in recent Canadian history. And I say that because I'm sure there were more, but this is a horrific crime. And for somebody to carry that burden and that stigma around for all these years because of someone who was living the high life and got away literally with murder, it just doesn't make sense. And so, he was never tested, guys. We could have gone on for centuries not knowing who killed her. Anyway, I think I'm going to stop here because I just cannot handle talking about this anymore. It's very upsetting, and I need to go to sleep early tonight. So I'm going to sign off for now. And I hope that you have managed to enjoy some of my content today, at least the one that was leading up to this and to this discussion. And so I will continue with this again tomorrow. It's quite a complex case. Even though she was found right away, it's very, very graphic in the way, even if you don't look at the pictures, I haven't seen any of the pictures of her. Um, Even if you go by no images, it's still a very graphic thing to confront. And it's bad enough that there was a wrongful conviction, but what she had to endure, God knows what was in his mind. Anyway, I will pick this up again tomorrow evening. And in the meantime, guys, I want you to have a great night. And I hope that you are all doing fine. And I do want to come and see you on your channels. I'm still having those issues, and I haven't tried to clear it up yet. And so, guys, I was following this great big YouTuber who's been pretty famous, for many, many years. And I don't know what happened. I don't know who it is, but on that channel, I was constantly bombarded with requests to give out my cell number. And finally, I had to warn everybody. I said, I don't know what's going on, but it's not right that you post threats in the comments section. And so I had to unfollow because I don't know that it was her. I don't know who it was. Most certainly somebody on that channel. You know what I'm saying? Since I blocked her, I didn't do anything. I just blocked, and I unfollowed and I blocked. And so as soon as I did that, guys, this happened. So I don't know what it could be. I'm not banned from YouTube because I checked with someone else's device. I'm there, I can comment, just not on my device. So we'll have to see what will transpire with this. And if that's the case, I just have to, get another device. I don't know. Anyway, nothing new there. So I hope that you're all having a great day and evening. And thank you so much for watching. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye for now.